Varanaka, or the next explanation or next exposition of this sutra, on the page 138, says Ratna Prabhakara in the second paragraph, Evam padanam siddhe arthe vyutpatti michchatam brahmanastikanam matam brahmanah manantar yogyatvat safalatvacha vedantekameyatvam iti yuktya nirastam. Evam, in this manner, padanam siddhe arthe. Siddha artha means that which artha, siddha artha means an object here. Siddha artha means that which is already an obtaining object. Already an existing thing is called siddha artha. Sadhya is that which is to be accomplished, and siddha is that which is already obtaining. For example, Purnandya says, Ghatadyarthasya siddhatvam nama utpatyanantaram kritya sadhyatvam. So, Ghata, for example, is called a siddhartha, meaning already an existing thing, already an accomplished thing. Utpatyanantaram, having been created, kritya sadhyatvam, then you do not require any karma in order to accomplish that. Brahmanastu kritya sadhyatvam iti bheda. However, Brahma is not created. So that is the difference between a pot and Brahma. That pot has been created and then it obtains, and Brahma is uncreated but it obtains. Siddhyarthe vyutpatti michchatam. There are two fundamental views with reference to how a sentence conveys its meaning. And one view is that what is a sentence is nothing but a group of words connected with one another through a verb, and whether one view is that these words individually give rise to their meanings, and the meanings are then subsequently connected, and then we understand the meaning of the sentence. The question is, how do we understand the meaning of a sentence? Because a sentence consists of many words. And what is the role that each word plays in communicating the overall meaning? When just one word is uttered, like cow or a pot or whatever, then it conveys a meaning. But then when these words are uttered as connected to one another in a constructed sentence, then how does the communication or bodha, the knowledge, take place? Is it that each word communicates its meaning, and that these meanings then are constructed with one another in Anvaya to give rise to a combined total meaning, or that the words combine with one another and give rise to a meaning totally? Whether the words combine and give rise to meaning, or the word meanings combine and give rise to the meaning. Now if the words can give rise to individual meaning, which is the first opinion, which is the first mata. So first mata is there, that the bhatta mata. Bhatta mata is that the words yield individual meaning, and then they get connected as anvaya or in a sentence construction, and then the final meaning is understood by the listener or by the reader, whatever be the case. The second opinion is of the Prabhakara is that the words are already connected. The words are connected, not the word meanings are connected. Words are connected with one another, and then they give rise to a connected meaning in a sentence. The question is, before even a speaker uses the words, he already has a construction of the words in his mind. And therefore words that are already constructed with one another are spoken. And therefore those constructed words give rise to a constructed meaning, rather than individual word giving rise to individual meaning. This is a Prabhakara mata. Whereas it is said that no, it is not the words which are constructed that are spoken only, but then words also do not yield or do not give up their individual meaning. So while retaining their individual meaning, they give rise to a total meaning. This is the opinion of the Bhatta. And what happens is, in the Prabhakara mata, the words are always connected with one another. And so there is anvitartha. Anvita means constructed. The words are already constructed. And then they give rise to the meaning. So Anvita Artha Abhidhanam it is called. Abhidhanam means the statement which is already Anvitam, meaning already words are connected or constructed with one another and then they are uttered. When we utter the words, how do we utter them? Do we first construct them and then utter? Or the words are uttered and then the meaning gets constructed? So Prabhakara believes that the words are first already constructed and then they are expressed, and that is how the meaning is already the constructed meaning alone is sought to be conveyed by the speaker rather than individual meaning of the words. And therefore, by that opinion, words are always connected. Words in connection give rise to meaning rather than unconnected words. And how are the words connected? In a sentence, words are always connected to a verb. Because when you utter a sentence, what is the principal element? A verb is the principal element. So, dandena gam, suppose you say. So, by the danda, a cow, then this leaves an akanksha, an expectation in the mind of the listener as to what is to be done with the cow and in what way is the danda or a stick related in this with the cow. Then when we say dandena gam anaya, may you bring a cow with the help of a danda, then that akanksha or expectancy is fulfilled. So expectancy of the listener is fulfilled only when the verb is uttered. Not only that, but the desire of the speaker also is totally fulfilled when he uses a verb. Otherwise, even his desire of expressing the idea also is not fulfilled. If he just says, dandena gam, cow with the help of a stick, if I say that, then my own desire to express the idea is not completed. At the same time, the listener also does not remain or does not resolve with an understood meaning. And therefore, there is an expectancy also in the mind of the listener. Therefore, when the verb is uttered, anaya, when you bring the cow with the help of a stick, then the burden of my desire also is expressed and the expectancy of the listener also is fulfilled. Therefore, the Prabhakara says that the verb is the principal element of a sentence. And inasmuch as all the words are already connected, without connection a word cannot stand. And they believe that the words are always all connected with the verb, with the kriya. And therefore, all the words have their meaning to be conveyed with reference to a kriya. All the words must necessarily convey some kind of an action. Without an action, a word doesn't have an activity. Even if you utter a word cow, suppose there is a cow, then immediately in your mind there arises an expectancy as to what is to be done with the cow. So mind always asks this question, what is to be done with it? That means a word always is related in the mind with reference to doing something. Is the cow to be taken away? Is the cow to be brought? Is the cow to be tied? Is the cow to be untied? What is to be done? When it's a cow, then this is how their explanation is. That the person always wants to know, there is always what is to be done with the cow. So the word cow is also understood with reference to some kind of an activity. And therefore the understanding of the word always carries with it some association with an activity. Without that a word is not understood. So word cow is understood. But cow word is understood along with an idea of something to be done with that cow and not independently as cow. Therefore a word does not independently give rise to, specifically, just only exclusively give rise to the meaning of the object cow, but it yields the meaning of the cow as related to some activity or the other. And therefore the word cow does not reveal the object cow, but word cow reveals some kind of an activity to be done with cow. This is what the Prabhakaras believe. That is a very important belief. Whereas the Bhattas would say that the word cow can reveal, that the word has capability of revealing its own meaning, and then only when somebody says dandena gam anaya, with a stick may you bring the cow, then each word meaning then gets connected. Danda, gav, go, and then this anaya. So each one of them, then the meaning they get connected and then they yield. So word first gives rise to its own meaning exclusively, and then the meaning gets connected in the sentence to yield the result, yield the final knowledge. And therefore, a word is capable of revealing a meaning of an object without necessarily connection with anything. They say that a word cannot give rise to meaning unless it is connected, because that is how you learn the words. Then that discussion comes when you learn the word in the first place, a cow or a stick or a bringing or taking, whatever it is. How did you learn all this word? How did you learn about the word cow? Or how did you learn about the word? How did you understand the meaning of the word stick? Only when someone says it to someone else. An elderly person says to a younger person, and a child is here who is desirous of learning, and child has all the curiosity of learning everything, because child's mind is curious, and it wants to learn, wants to decipher what's going on around. And therefore, how does the child understand the meaning of the words? So the child hears an elderly person saying to the younger person, Rama dandena gam anaya. Hey Ram, by the stick may you bring the cow. Then the child sees some activity happening. And right away, if the child would not understand what is meant by dandena, gam, anaya, he doesn't know the meanings. Then he finds some activity taking place in response to this statement of the elderly person on the part of the middle person. And therefore the child sees that this middle person has understood some activity to be performed by the instruction of the elder person. And therefore the child concludes that the statement of the elder person has communicated some activity on the part of the middle person, and which has prompted the middle person to perform this activity. And therefore, even when the child learned the meaning of the word cow, he always learned the meaning of the word cow as something to be brought, or something to be taken away, or something to be tied, or something to be untied. Isn't it? Or when he learned the meaning of the word danda, he always learned it in association with that which is used to direct the cow or whatever, or scare away the crows and something. And therefore, when I remember the word cow, I do not remember the cow independently, but I always remember it reference to some activity which was always associated with the cow. And therefore, even the word cow, when it is uttered or remembered by me, always brings with it the association with some activity or the other. So word danda and every word. So Rama, then a person came, then he understood that this is Rama. Who is Rama? Rama is the one who comes when he is called, or whatever it is. So this is the word Rama. And the person Rama also is remembered as in association with some activity and not merely as Rama. So this is how the child has learned. And therefore, that is the kind of knowledge we have about words, always associated or related with some activity or the other. And therefore, when now today I hear these words, I will hear them also with reference to some activity. That means that my understanding of the word can never be totally devoid of some association with activity. And therefore, words communicate finally some activity. So words have their communication of meaning in relation to an activity and not without any relation. Meaning the words can convey the meaning as related to something and not as unrelated. This is the Prabhakara mata. While the Bhatta mata is that the words can convey the meaning without being related. This is a very, very important. That's how the Vedas are interpreted, you know. Vedas are all, Shabda is Pramanam. So therefore now the point is, how does the knowledge take place when the words are uttered? Everybody knows that knowledge takes place. But how does the knowledge take place? Does the knowledge take place as already something, kind of an association which is already there in my mind, which association and the words are remembered? So Prabhakaras would say that the knowledge takes place by memory. That when the words are heard as constructed with one another, then from the past memory the knowledge takes place. So knowledge is based on memory. While the Bhatta says no, the memory is not the only thing, but then that the meaning of the words also, when they are constructed in a new form, because you may have heard the word cow and have known it, you may have heard the word danda and known it, you may have heard the word Rama and known it, but you may not have ever heard this sentence, Rama dandena gamanaya, or whatever. Suppose the first time you hear a sentence, I don't know, white horses always run fast. Now suppose you hear a sentence like this. Now you heard the meaning, you know the meaning of the word white and horses and run and fast. But you never heard this sentence before. White horses always run fast. The first time you hear this, in that case, then this statement also communicates a meaning to you. Is it purely based on memory of the words? No. Because these words have never been heard in this construction before, and therefore in a new construction, how do the words give rise to meaning? Something new they do. Therefore, every sentence gives rise to meaning independently. It is not only the memory, but then a sentence creates a fresh understanding in us. Not just a remembered understanding, but a fresh understanding. And therefore, something new happens every time you hear a sentence. That is called Shabda Bodha. That the words give rise to meaning, and therefore the word has a capability of giving rise to meaning of its own object without relationship to some kriya or something. Either samsarga or vishesha, without any association, a word can give rise to the meaning. This is the idea. Therefore, words such as Satyam, Jnanam, Anantam, Brahma, or Ghata, Pata, Matha, then they are capable of revealing an object without association with the kriya. Therefore, a word can reveal Siddhartha, meaning an object that is existing. So, Padanam Siddharthe Vyatpattim Ichchadam. Siddhartha means with reference to an existing object. Vyatpattim means knowledge. So that the word is able to convey, word has a capability of conveying the existing object also, and therefore Vedantas do convey the existing object, namely Satyam, existing entity, namely Brahma. So Bhattas do accept that Vedantas do convey the meaning of an existing entity such as Brahma, except that Brahma is only meant as associated with some kriya or the other. So the overall purport of the Veda is only in communicating kriya, but that they are capable of communicating Brahma all right. These people say, Prabhakaras on the other hand, that Vedas Vedas only communicate kriya and nothing else. Siddhartha they cannot communicate, and therefore so when the Siddhartha can be communicated, then we already refuted that paksha. How? So Siddharthe Vyatpatti Michchadam Brahmanastikanam Matam. Of course, Bhattas do not accept Brahma as Karma Phaladata. So we accept Brahma as Jagat Karanam, and therefore Karmadyaksha, Karma Phaladata. Bhattas or Mimamsakas accept Brahma merely as what? Brahma is Devata, etc. But they do not accept God as Karma Phaladata, because according to them, Karma alone is capable of giving rise to its own phala, and therefore we don't require a Karma Phaladata. So that's called Brahmanastika. Brahmanastika means those who do not accept God as Karma Phaladata. Inasmuch as the whole universe is Karma Phalam, so they don't accept God as the creator of the universe also. They say Karma creates everything. Therefore they are called Brahmanastikas. Both of them are Brahmanastikas, who Bhattas and Prabhakaras. All Mimamsakas are Brahmanastikas, meaning they do not accept God as Karma Phaladata. So whenever they read the word Brahma, they will interpret that as some Devata and not as Karma Phaladata. So what we understand by word Brahma is not what they understand. So Brahmanastikanam matam Brahmanaha manandar ayogyatvat safalatvat Vedantaikamayatvam idyuktya nirastam. So they said that whenever Vedantas talk about Brahma, they always talk about Brahma as associated with some kriya. That they do reveal Brahma. But then the purpose of revealing or talking about Brahma is not in Brahma itself, but in some kriya. And this mata has been refuted by us on these two grounds, manantar ayogyatvat. Brahma being atindriya vishaya is not manantar yogi, meaning is not available for knowledge by other means of knowledge such as perception. And therefore, your contention that a parinishthita vastu or already an existing object must necessarily be available for knowledge by perception or other means of knowledge, that was refuted by saying that Brahma is atindriyam, and therefore even though it is already an existing entity, it cannot be known by perception. It can be only known by scriptures. And they say, suppose scriptures reveal Brahman, so what? What do we accomplish by that knowledge? That knowledge is nishphalam or useless. Then we proved that safalatvat. Because by the knowledge of the heopade rahita parinishthita vastunah jnanat sarva klesha prahanam. So prahana, all the whole klesha can be eliminated by the knowledge of Brahman, because ignorance of Brahman alone creates all the klesha. And therefore we say that Brahma jnanam is safalam. So two things are necessary for pramanam: manantar ayogyatvam and safalatvam. Every pramanam, the knowledge that it generates, can be called valid knowledge only when, or it can be called pramanam only when it generates a knowledge which is safalam, which serves a purpose, and secondly, which cannot be obtained by another means of knowledge. We say that Vedantas give us the knowledge of Brahman which cannot be acquired by any other means of knowledge, and Vedanta give us knowledge of Brahman which is meaningful because it is a means for attainment of the ultimate Purushartha. And thus their mata was refuted on this ground, because they accepted that Vedanta can reveal Brahman, except that Brahman is not what you talk about, and the purpose is also not what you talk about, and that was refuted. So Vedantaikamayatvam Brahma, that Brahma is Brahmana Vedantaikamayatvam, that Brahma is can only be known by Vedanta alone. Iti uktya nirastam. By this statement we have refuted that position. So vyutpattim shaktim ityartha. Vyutpattim ichchadam, shaktim ichchadam. Shakti means the capability of the word to convey its meaning. Word can convey the meaning in different ways. It can convey the meaning directly, vachyartha. It can convey meaning by implication, lakshyartha. It can convey meaning by suggestion, vyangyartha. So different ways word, but word has all the shaktis. So those people say that, so vyutpatti means shakti, the word can convey its meaning. So vyutpatti means shaktim loke padanam yogyetara samsrushtatvena swartha pratibhana samarthyam angikritya. Padanam of the words, yogya itara samsrushtatvena, when the words are constructed with the with compatible words. Of course, you do not make a sentence merely by a group of words. So other conditions are also required. Yogyata is required. Compatibility is required. You cannot say the white horses are flying, because horse cannot fly, and therefore that statement cannot convey the knowledge. Horse and flying are not compatible with each other, and therefore that sentence, horse is flying, will not convey, unless then you have to go in for what we call lakshyartha or something. So yogya itara, yogya means compatible words, itara means other words which are not just synonyms, etc. Samsrushtatvena, by connection. So connection in terms of the being a karaka, or connection in terms of being a visheshana. Swartha pratibhana samarthyam angikritya, that each word can convey its own meaning. That samarthya word has. Siddhyarthe vyutpattim ichchadam. And thus, then these bhattas who say that word has a capability of conveying its own meaning, and even in a sentence also it conveys its own meaning, and then the meaning gets connected with the meaning of other words, and that's how the overall meaning is understood. Brahmanastikanam brahmaiva nasti iti vadatam bhattamata anuyayinam. So earlier was bhattamata, who say that Brahma is meaning karma phaladata is not, or jagat karanam Brahma is not. So it was said manantar ayogyatvat, because Brahma is atindriyam and therefore manantar ayogyam. Safalatvacha, safala jnana vishayatvam eva safalatvam. Brahman doesn't have safalata, but knowledge of Brahman is safalata. And therefore, Brahman is the object of that knowledge which brings about the fulfillment in our life. Iti nirastam. In this manner, the earlier opinion or mata has been refuted. Now, continues Ratnaprabha, Samprati. Now, Sarvesham Padanam Karyanvitarthe Shaktimichadam. However, now comes the opinion of not Prabhakara really, because Prabhakara opinion is there, but modified. Because Vedantins accept the Mimamsakas, of them the Advaitins accept the opinion of the Bhatta. Vyavhare Bhatta Naha, meaning in Vyavhara, generally speaking, we go along with the Bhatta Mata, as we did go along and as far as the Siddhartha Vyutpatti is concerned. Here is the opinion of what they call Vrittikara, Bodhayana, perhaps, so Bodhayana and Bhartru Prapancha. These are considered to be Vrittikaras. Vritti means a brief commentary upon a work, without going into any Purvapaksha, Siddhanta, Khandana, Mandana, etc. Just give the brief explanation of the things as they are. Bhashya is where you take the Purvapaksha and Uttarapaksha and everything else, but in Vritti it's a short explanation. So therefore, Vrittis or this kind of brief explanations of Brahma Sutra were existing in the time of Bhashyakara, and therefore they were prevalent also in the people. Therefore, people already had certain understanding of notions, whatever. Notional understanding about Brahma Sutra. That's why we find in Bhagavad Gita also a lot of discussion about Jnana Karma Samuchaya in Upanishads also, because commentaries obtained on all the Upanishads and Bhagavad Gita and Brahma Sutra, even at the time of Bhashyakara, and they had interpreted this text in this manner, that the purpose of the text is in Jnana Karma Samuchaya, combination of knowledge and action, or merely upasana, and this kind of explanations were given, interpretations were given. Therefore, keeping those obtaining interpretations in mind, Bhashyakara had to write the Bhashya. So Bhashyakara is addressing people of 1200 or 1400 years ago, rather than people today. That we have to accept. Except that many of those positions continue to remain today also. And it also helps us to understand those Purvapakshas to get the clarity. But sometimes we wonder why discussions have a certain trend. What was the need for Bhashyakara to undertake a certain discussion? The need was this. Today, whenever we say something, it will be said in light of the present understanding. Whatever thinkers are at present, or whatever kind of understanding people have at present, the present person is addressed, and his or her understanding is addressed. And if that understanding needs to be corrected, then accordingly the unfoldment is done. So here also Bhashyakara takes the opinion of Vrittikara, Bodhayana perhaps, or Bhartru Prapancha, whose commentary or Vritti must have been available, and who is interpreted, who follows Prabhakara Mata. Except that Vrittikaras are believers, they are Astika, meaning they accept Brahman, but then this Vrittikara believes that yes, Vedantas are Pramanam for Brahman, which was established in the first exposition, except that Vedantas reveal Brahman all right, but not merely knowledge of Brahman is the means of moksha, but upasana of Brahman. So Vedantas reveal Brahman as an object of upasana rather than merely as an object of knowledge. Meaning that it is upasana or meditation upon Brahman which is the means of moksha and not merely knowledge of Brahman. So that is the paksha of Vrittikara. And if Vedantas reveal Brahman as an object of upasana, that means Vedantas reveal Brahman only as an object associated with an activity, because upasana also is a mental activity. And therefore, their belief, their mata also is similar to mata of the Prabhakara in that sense. In the sense of how a sentence conveys the meaning, that a word is understood by us only as related with some activity and not devoid of an activity. Therefore, Brahma word also is sought to be conveyed by Vedanta as related to some activity such as meditation and not devoid of any activity. And therefore, Vedantas seek to reveal Brahman in association with an activity such as Upasana, and not what the Vedantins say, that it reveals Brahman for the sake of Brahman, without relation to anything. So this is You must understand the difference in opinion. You will find that the same discussion is going on, but it's not the same discussion. Earlier it was said that Kriya, karma in terms of ritual or upasana is the purport of the Vedas, including Vedanta. And Vedantas, if they talk about Brahman, they do, then they talking about Brahman is merely for the sake of ritual or for the sake of some ritual or maybe some kind of an upasana. Some vidhi is there. Meaning Brahman and everything else in Vedas are revealed as associated with some vidhi. Vidhi for a ritual or vidhi for upasana. Here it says that word cannot convey an existing entity, therefore words can only convey some kriya. So the Vedas and the Vedanta also conveys kriya in the sense of upasana, and therefore Brahman, which is revealed by Vedanta, is to be associated with upasana, is revealed as in conjunction with an upasana. And therefore Brahma is presented by Vedanta as upasya vishaya rather than as gneya vishaya. They said formally that Vedanta is not the pramanam for Brahma, Vedanta is pramanam for Kriya. This opinion says that Vedanta is pramanam for Brahma, but which kind of Brahma? Not Gneyam Brahma, but Upasyam Brahma. Not Brahma as an object of knowledge, but Brahma as an object of meditation. So, this opinion accepts Vedanta as pramanam for Brahma, whereas earlier one did not accept. Earlier one said Vedanta is pramanam for Kriya and not for Brahma, and that we refuted. Now this one says Vedanta is pramanam for Brahma, all right, but Upasya Brahma and not Gneya Brahma, and that is being refuted. So we must know the difference between these two pakshas. So Samprati Sarvesham Padanam Karyanvitarthe Shaktimichchatam. Now those people like Prabhakaras and the Vrittikaras also, who say that all the padas or all the words of a sentence give rise to their meaning always in association with some activity. Vidisheshatvena Pratyak Brahma Vedantahi Bodhyate na Svatantrena. That Pratyak Brahma Vedantahi Bodhyate. Vedantas do give us the knowledge of Brahman, which is Atma, Pratyak Brahma. But Vidisheshatvena, where Brahma is an object of Vidhi, Brahma is connected with Vidhi, and Brahma is not revealed for its own sake, Brahma is revealed in connection with a Vidhi such as Upasana, na Svatantrena. But Brahman is not revealed by Vedanta as Gneya Vishaya, Svatantrena, as something to be known, and that the knowledge of Brahman itself is the activity through Vedanta. No, Brahman is to be known for the purpose of meditation. So knowledge of Brahman is not for the sake of knowledge of Brahman, knowledge of Brahman is for the sake of meditation. So Vidisheshatvena Pratyak Brahma Vedanta hi bodhyate na svatantrena iti vadatam vrittikaranam mata nirasaya. These vrittikaras who say this mata nirasaya for refuting their mata or their opinion, sutrasya varnakaantaram arabhyate. The Varnaka means another exposition of the sutra or another explanation of the sutra is commenced by Bhashyakara, keeping in mind now the Vrittikaras. So very beautifully the thought development takes place. Athato Brahma Jignasa. Now then we commence the vichara or a deliberation upon Brahma. Because deliberation on Brahma gives rise to knowledge of Brahman. And because knowledge of Brahman is a means of moksha, because bondage is only of the nature of ignorance or product of ignorance, and therefore bondage is adhyasa, and adhyasa being the product of ignorance can only go by knowledge, and knowledge only can take place by vichara, and therefore Brahma vichara has to be performed. Therefore athato Brahma Jignasa. Therefore when there is a jignasa or desire to know Brahman, that jignasa must be fulfilled by vichara or deliberation upon Brahman. Kim tat Brahma? What is the nature of that Brahma? Janmad Yasyataha. Lakshana or definition of Brahman is given. Brahman is that which is the cause or because of which is the creation, sustenance and dissolution of the world. And therefore Brahma is abhinna nimitta upadana karanam. It is both the material and the efficient cause. And a cause which is both material and efficient must necessarily be vivarta. It cannot be a parinami karanam. Parinami can be only upadana karanam, na nimitta karanam. And nimitta karanam can changeless can be nimitta karanam, not upadana karanam. This changeless is both material and efficient cause, and therefore the product must necessarily be of the nature of superimposition rather than real creation. Therefore, the causality of Brahman also is merely of the vivarta. Brahman is not cause in a primary sense, but as though the cause of the creation, because creation does not enjoy the same degree of reality as Brahman. So Brahman is abhinnamitta upadana karanam, vivarta upadana karanam. How do you say that? Shastrayonitvat. How do you say that Brahman is Jagat Karanam? Because Brahma is Sarvajñam. Jagat Karanam must have omniscience and omnipotence. How do you say that Brahman is omniscience? What is the qualification? What is required for a creator? A creator must necessarily have knowledge of what is to be created. And if Brahman is the creator of the whole universe, then it must have the knowledge of the whole universe. Now Brahman must be Sarvajñam or omniscient. How do you say Brahman is omniscient? Shastrayonitvat. But Brahman is Shastrayoni. It is the very yoni or the cause or the source of Shastra. And Shastra, Vedas are Sarvajñam. Vedas are accepted as the texts which have everything in them. They have the capability of revealing whatever is to be known in the life. And therefore, the one who is the creator of the Veda, or the originator of the Veda, or revealer of the Veda, must necessarily have Sarvajñatvam, because Vedas have Sarvajñatvam. Therefore, Brahma is Sarvajñam, and therefore, it has Yogyata. It has the competence to be the Jagat Karanam. But that is what your Shastra says. Alright, what does Shastra say? Brahma is the creator of Shastra, alright, therefore omniscient. But what is the activity of Shastra? Shastra yonitvat. Because Shastra is yoni of Brahma. Shastra is the pramanam for Brahma. Shastra is pramanam for Brahma, and Shastra says that Brahma is Jagat Karanam, and therefore Brahma is omniscient. At the same time, Brahma is the Shastra Karanam, and therefore also Brahma is omniscient. And therefore Shastra yonitvat, since Shastra is a yoni or pramanam for Brahma. How do you say that Shastra is pramanam for Brahma and not for karma or something else? We say that Shastra is pramanam for karma. How do you say that Shastra is pramanam for Brahma? Amnayasya kriyarthatvat anarthakyam atadarthanam. We say that the Vedas are all related or devoted to revealing karma alone. Therefore, Vedantas, we talk about Brahman, cannot be independently pramanam, can only be considered as pramanam by way of serving the purpose of karma. How do you say that Vedantas are independently pramanam for Brahma? Then we showed how Shastra is a yoni, because Brahma is manantar ayogyam, at the same time Brahma jnanam is safalam. Okay, Shastra is yoni of pramanam for Brahma, all right. But how do you say that it is pramanam for Gneyam Brahma? We say that it is pramanam for Upasya Brahma. So that's fine, this one here. That is being discussed now. सुनस्वातंत्र्य निवृत्तां वृत्ति कारणां मत निरासाय सूत्रस्य वर्णकांतरम आरभ्यते. You have to go back to page 138 to look at Purnanandya. The fifth line, सर्वेषां पदानामिति पदानां कार्यान्विते एव अर्थे शक्तिः इष्यते. That padas are able to convey the meaning only in as connected with karya. Anvaya means connection. Tatraiva shabda samarthyat, that a word has the capability of conveying a meaning always in association with the kriya. Nadu siddhyarthe, that a word cannot convey the meaning merely of a artha, of a padartha, devoid of some kriya. Tadabhavat, that not being the case, not that shakti not being there in the word. Tathacha karya samsparshamantarena siddhyarthe shabdasya na pramanyam. Therefore, karya samsparshamantarena, without an association with karya or an activity, siddhyarthe shabdasya na pramanyam. Shabda does not have the pramanyam, meaning Shabda does not reveal merely the meaning of an object, an existing object. It reveals the object always in association with the kriya. Siddhasya apadarthatvad, because a siddha vastu cannot be padartha, cannot be the meaning of the word, because word does not have capability of revealing merely an object devoid of some activity. Iti karyanvitarthe shaktimicchatam iti bhavaha. So these people who desire, meaning who believe that the words always convey in association with activity, this is their opinion now. Shri Guru Charanestu Brahma Vidya Bharane Ayamartha Atisphutaya Upapaditaha. So Brahma Vidya Bharanam is the text, and Sri Guru Charanehi. So this, the teacher has very clearly, it is footer to them, Atisphutaya. So this is very clearly explained by Sri Guru, by the teacher, in a text called Brahma Vidya. Ashrama Sri Charanaha, earlier it was said, Tathahi, to explain. Laukika Padartha Vyutpatyanusarena Vedavakyartha Varaniyaha. Number one, how is the Vedavakya or a statement of Veda to be understood? Laukika Padartha Vyutpatyanusarena. The Vedavakyas are also to be understood only as ordinary Vakyas, or words of Vedas are all to be understood as ordinary words. Meaning, the word that the Veda employs in the same sense that a word is employed by us in our common parlance. It's not that Veda can use the word Ghata and mean some Devata or something like that. When Veda uses the word Ghata, that word Ghata should convey the same thing that we understand in our common parlance. Otherwise, we can never understand Vedas. There are people who believe that Veda words of the Veda convey alaukika artha, not laukika artha. We say no. We mean the Mimamsakas. Jaimini says no. The words of the Veda also convey the same meaning as the words convey in our common parlance. And then how the Veda meaning is conveyed? If they convey alaukika meaning, then the words when you repeat and chant, and in some way the meaning will come. Some adrushta is there. That means adrushtartha is there. So we discussed earlier that the words always give rise to meaning drishtartha. Words give rise to meaning directly because there is no vishesha. The meaning of the word in Laukika or Vaidika, there is no vishesha, meaning that the word gives rise to meaning in the same manner that the word gives rise to meaning in our common parlance, and therefore Laukika Padartha Vyutpatti Anusarena. Just as a word gives rise to the meaning in our common parlance, in the same manner, word gives rise to meaning in the Vedic word also gives rise to meaning in the same way. Vedavakyartha Varani. Otherwise, you can never interpret Vedas because you don't know what they mean. If they mean something alaukika means that which is not laukika, which is beyond sense perception, then you can never understand Vedas. For you to understand Vedas, you have to understand the words, and you can understand words as you have learned them, and that is how they say that this is how Vedas are also to be understood. Laukiki cha vyutpatti padanam karyeva. And also, vyutpatti meaning the Shakti, the capability of the word to convey the meaning. The word is capable of conveying meaning only in association with karya and activity, as we just said. Tatraiva adya vyutpatti graha sambhavad. Why? Adya vyutpatti. The first time when you understood the meaning, how did you understand it? You understood it in reference to some activity. When a child understands, there are many ways that you can understand the meaning of the word. Like kosha, vyakarana, upamanam, kosha, aptavakya. Some learned person can explain to you the meaning of a word, that's how you can understand. Kosha meaning a dictionary also can explain to you the word, that's how also you can get the meaning of the word. Then vyavahara. Sometimes you understand the meaning of the word as employed in our common parlance, and so from context you can understand. From vyakarana, by the derivative meaning of the word also you can understand the meaning of the word. By comparison also, you can understand that one word is synonym of another word, and that's how you can understand the meaning of a word. There are different ways that we can understand the meaning of a word. Shakti graham, vyakaranoupamana, by vyakarana and by upamana, when one word is comparable to another one. Kosha aptavakya, kosha means by dictionary, aptavakya means from a learned person. Vyavaharatascha, from the vyavahara also you can understand when some people use the words, then in the context you say that the word should have a given meaning. Vakyasya sheshat vivrutehe vadanti sannidhyatah siddha padasya vruddhaha. So the vruddhaha, the learned people say that these words give rise to meaning in these different ways. But adya graha, the very first time when you understand the meaning of a word, how do you understand? Do you understand it from a dictionary? Or do you understand it merely as explained by somebody? How do you understand? When a child first comes to understand a word, he always, that first understanding is important because that understanding always remains in your mind. Subsequent understandings are always based on that first understanding. You either modify that understanding, subtract, add, do something with it. And then alone these subsequent understandings will be there in your mind. So, tatraiva adya vyutpatti graha sambhava. Adya vyutpatti means the first time the word was understood. Always with reference to karya. How? Nahi koshadebhya. Even when you refer to dictionaries, etc., when dictionary give rise to the meanings, then also those meanings are understood in light of those meanings that you understood earlier. Adya vyutpatti graha sambhavati. From kosha, etc., I mean dictionaries, etc., the first understanding can never be from the dictionary. First understanding always is from the vyavahara. Then dictionary cannot give rise to any knowledge. If dictionary could independently give rise to knowledge of the words, then without knowing any word, you can open a dictionary and learn. But you cannot. You can learn from a dictionary only when you have some store of knowledge of that language. Then you can build upon that and learn other words. But then you can never learn from dictionary a language or words if you have no knowledge of that language at all. Atyant avyutpannasya koshadi arthajnana asambhavat. And therefore, even dictionary or vyavahara also. When you don't know the language, you hear French people talking, you don't know what they are talking. So when they use the words, you can't understand anything. When you refer to French dictionary, you cannot understand. So dictionary cannot give you aptavakya. When a learned French person talks to you in French, you can't understand anything. So aptavakya or dictionary or vyavahara, nothing can give rise to meaning unless you have something with you. Unless you have understood those meanings in some fashion. ततश्च प्रयोज्य प्रयोजक वृद्ध व्यवहारात् भिन्नः शक्तिग्रहो वर्णनीयः. And therefore shaktigraha, the grasping of the meaning of a word on the part of the one who wants to learn the word, has to be gained independent of the vyavahara. There are two fellows, prayojya vruddha and prayojaka vruddha. Vruddha means elderly person. As far as child is concerned, everybody is vruddha. Even a young boy also is vruddha for a child. Infant who is trying to learn things, Imagine a child trying to learn things now. And how does he learn? He sees an elderly person giving instruction to a younger person. Even that younger person also is old as far as the child is concerned. So, prayojaka vruddha. You go back to prayojaka vruddha means uttama vruddha, means elder one. Prayojya means madhyama vruddha. And so, an elderly person and a middle person. So here Purnananda quotes a statement from that text, and at the back he gives explanation of some of the terms also there. Okay. So prayojya prayojaka vruddha vyavaharat bhinnah shaktigraho varnaniyah. The child grasps the meaning from the vyavahara, but then the grasping of the meaning is different from the vyavahara. Prasamam sacha varnaniyah. Prasamam, first time, such a vyutpitsoho evam bhavati. Vyutpitsoho means of the child who is desirous of learning. Of a child who is desirous of learning, this is how the understanding of a meaning of a word takes place. She describes the process. Prayojaka vruddhasya ghatam anaya gam badhana iti shabdocharana anantaram. There is an elderly person who tells the middle person, ghatam anaya, bring a pot. Or just says Ghatamanaya, the child hears Ghatamanaya. Gam Badhana, meaning tie the cow. So Gam Badhana. He hears these words, doesn't know what they mean. Shabdocharana anantaram, after the utterance of these words on the part of an elderly person to a middle-aged person, prayojya vruddhena krutam ghataнаянam gobandhanam cha pashyatah. Then he finds Ghatamanaya, then he finds that middle person bringing a ghata. Or Gam Badhana, then he sees this person tying a cow. So Gobandhanam cha pashyatah. Pashyatah means what? Vyutpitsoho balasya. This child who is seeing this, पश्यतः घट आनयन गोबंधनयोः कारणतया स्वीय स्तन्यपानादि दृष्टान्तेन कृति. They say that the words give rise to meaning by anumanam, not directly. A word does not convey the meaning directly, but by inference the child learns. How? The only activity the child knows is what? That one activity for which the child does not require an instruction is stanapanam. If that was not there, perhaps child could not learn anything according to them. But child knows one activity. What? Stanapanam. And so he knows that activity. And therefore, he knows that is an activity. And he knows that he is capable. This stanapanam is an activity which he can perform. And therefore, that knowledge also is there. And thus, this activity is there when there is a desire to perform that activity. So for performance of activity, two factors are required. The need or desire to perform the activity and the yogyata or the capability of that activity or compatibility of that activity to be performed. For example, the child knows that it can do stanapanam and that there is a desire to do stanapanam. There is knowledge or that stanapanam is something that it can do and there is a desire for stanapanam, then alone the child can do this activity. So child knows these two things. That in the activity called stanapanam, the desire, chikirsha, desire to perform that action is there. At the same time, his ability to perform action also is there. Therefore, whenever an action takes place, he knows that there must be a desire as well as there must be an ability of that action to be performed by that person. Because if an infant is asked, Ghatamanaya, please bring a pot, the fellow may understand, but he is not capable of bringing the pot and therefore he won't be able to perform the activity. So that person who performs the activity knows that I can do this. Otherwise he won't do it. Many people undertake activities thinking that they can do and they find they cannot do, then they give up. It's a different thing. But when would a person undertake an activity? When the person thinks that he or she can do it. So very often we give instruction and there is no response. We think that the fellow doesn't want to do. But then there can be also a reason that the person thinks that he or she cannot do. So we draw so many conclusions impulsively that I told you to do, you did not do it. How can I do it? Then the thing starts. You asked me to do this, all right, prepare this food. How can I do that? So the little girl thought that she cannot do this action. And mother thought that she did not want to do. But in performance of an action, these two things are there. The listener's judgment or understanding that this action he or she can perform, and also the desire to perform the action, no doubt. That prayojaka, that instruction creates in him the chikirsha or desire to do that, or activity to do, not even desire, but an activity to do. Suppose our instruction does not create that kind of an activity in there, nothing happens. Therefore our instructions don't work because of two reasons. Now you should know this. Number one, our instructions do not inspire in the listener the need or desire to do something. So you must instruct in such a way that it inspires the person to do. And secondly, that the person should feel that the person is capable of doing it. Therefore you should perhaps make them aware of their capabilities if necessary. And create in them also a desire to do. Sometimes capability is there, desire is not there. Why should I do? What is the purpose of this? Sometimes desire is there but capability is not there. When two things are there, then alone action is possible. So you can infer the presence of these two things whenever you find an action taking place. That's how the child infers from its own activity. Child has experience of his own activity of stanapanam, and therefore he knows that these two things are there. Therefore he says, so ghata anayana gobandhanayoho karanataya sviya stanyapanadi dushtandena kruti chikirshayoho. That kruti chikirsha must be the karanam for this action. Ghata anayanam meaning action of bringing a pot, or gobandhanam meaning an action of tying the cow. It must have with its cause what? Kruti chikirsha. Chikirsha means an activity or desire to do something. Madhyam vruddhagatayoho anumane sati. Therefore this child does the anumanam. That is middle person who has been instructed has a chikirsha, has a desire or there is a desire on his part or to perform the action. Meaning that the instruction of the elder person has created in this person this activity, a desire to perform the activity or willingness to perform the activity. Not the willingness, instead of desire, let us say, chikirsha also is willingness. So, that the instruction has created in this person a willingness to perform the activity. Then, anumane sati, chikirshayaha karyata jnana mulakatvat, and that willingness will be when? Only when the person believes that the person can perform that activity. Otherwise, that willingness also cannot be there. So you must create willingness and also the knowledge in the person that the person can do that. So karyata jnana chikirshaya karyata jnana mulakatvat nunam anena anaya bandhanayoho karyata avagata iti buddhir bhavati with pitsoho. In the child this buddhi bhavati. The child comes to this understanding that this person anena means what? Madhyama vruddhyana, that by this person who is instructed anayana bandhanayoho karyata avagata, that he has understood that anayanam, the action of bringing, or bandhanam, the action of tying, has karyata, that these anayanam and bandhanam involve some karyata, involve some activity. So that this person understood that some activity is involved in anayanam or bandhanam, that's what the child understands. Child understands that this person understood that he has to do something, that there is a willingness to do also, and that there is a compatibility of doing also. Tasyam cha buddhau shabdocharana atiriktasya karanantarasya sambhavat. When the child therefore understands that ghata is something to be brought or cow is something to be tied, so he has understood the meaning of the word cow in association with that which is tied, or he understood the meaning of the word ghata or a pot as something to be brought. He has not known ghata independently as ghata. Ghata is something which can be brought. Cow is something which is to be tied or can be tied. And this is the buddhi that the word creates in this person. This karyata, that the word has created, the word ghata or go has created in this person the karyata or activity in terms of bringing and tying. Therefore the child understands that this person, middle person, has understood ghata in association with the karya or go also in association with the karya. This is the conclusion that the child draws because of his own anumanam. He'll show how anumanam is involved there. And that kind of an understanding the child has, how does that understanding come? Shabdocharana atiriktasya karanantarasya abhavat. Merely by shabdochara, that the elder person said, utter the words gamanaya and then, or the ghatamanaya, and that from that alone the word the child is understood. Prayojaka vruddhocharita shabdha karya visheshe anayanadau shaktah. And therefore the child concludes that the word ghata or go, or that is uttered by the prayojaka vruddha, the elder one, is karya visheshe anayanadau shaktah. That word has the capability of conveying a specific action, such as bringing or such as tying. The idea is that when the prayojaka vruddha or the elderly person uses the word pot, right away he uses the pot as something to be brought. So pot, the word pot is not uttered by the elder person merely independently as a pot, but by the elder person the word pot is used as something to be brought. In his own mind the word pot occurs as something to be brought. That's the reason why the one who listens also gets the idea that pot is something to be brought. See, this is the idea, that the word pot is not uttered by the elderly person merely as a pot. Later on for the other one to understand that it is to be brought, but the elder one himself uses the word pot as something to be brought, or uses the word cow as something to be tied. And that is how the child finds that. This is how the middle person has understood the meaning, and that's how he also understands the meaning. So, that's how he then concludes that prayojaka vruddhocharita shabdha karya visheshe anayanadau shaktah. Shakta means prayuktah or pravruttah. That this word is employed by the elderly person as associated with a particular kriya. Iti nirnaya bhavati. And therefore, the first time when a child learns in this manner that ghata is something to be brought. Meaning, he will always know ghata. Whenever he then thinks of ghata, he will think of ghata as an object Ghata, all right. In association, something to be brought, something to be taken, something to be done with, and not independently as Ghata. Or in future, whenever I will think of the word cow, how will you think? Cow has something to be brought, taken away, tied, untied. So when he will use the word, how will he use it? In the same way. I will use the word in the same way as I have understood them. If I understood the first time the words as always connected with some kriya, then when I use it, I will also use them as associated with some kriya. So when Vedas use the words, how do they use? Also in association with kriya, because we just said that Vedic Vakyas are also to be understood in the same manner as Laukika Vakyas. So whatever is the criterion or the mechanism is there in communication by Laukika words, that communication or mechanism also obtains in communication by Vedic words. And therefore, Vedas, when they use the word Brahma, they don't use word Brahma as such, but use Brahma as related with some kriya and not merely as Brahma. And that kriya in this case is Upasana. This is the basis of their conclusion as to how Vedantas reveal Brahma, all right, but as Upasya Vishaya and not as Siddha Vishaya or as Gneya Vishaya. Tatascha avapa udvapabhyam. Avapa meaning bringing. Udvapa meaning throwing or whatever. Tatas avapa udvapabhyam yathayatham karya samanyam prasama avagatam avihaya eva. And therefore, this karya samanyam. So it is not that you know ghata only as a particular activity then. Since then you must come to know ghata has to be brought and taken, this and that. So, ghata may not necessarily be remembered by you as associated with a particular activity, but then definitely ghata is remembered by you or understood by you as associated with some activity or the other. Karya samanyam. Prathama avagatam. So, he understands ghata as an object, always to be something to be done with. Cow is an object, always related with some activity. This is how Prathama, first time is understood. Pratham avagatam avihaya, without giving up that understanding, teshu samabhivyahar vishesheshu tat karya vishesha pratyaya. Samabhivyahara means, some abhivyahara means that utterance together. So when the words are uttered together, since words were always uttered together earlier also, they say that you cannot convey any meaning unless a verb is used. Therefore, whenever you want to convey some meaning, a verb must be used. Therefore, first time when a child heard somebody talking, a verb must have been used, otherwise that prayojya vruddha, the middle one, could not have understood. So for the prayojaka vruddha, or the elderly person, to have conveyed something to the other one, he must have used a verb, because there cannot be a sentence without verb. If there is a sentence without a verb, it won't be called sentence, because it always leaves akanksha. Shweta dandena gam, suppose you say that, then what? Unless you say anaya, please cow, suppose you say, then what do you say? You can't understand. Please bring the cow, then you understand it. So, every communication must always involve sentences, and sentence must always involve a verb. So therefore the child has always been hearing. And how do you get your meaning from the sentences uttered by the elderly person? The child gets the meaning. And since those sentences are always uttered in reference to a verb, therefore the understanding of the child of a word is always in reference to some kriya or the other. And therefore, that is how the word understanding always remains, that without the kriya, there cannot be anything that is not associated with some or the other kriya. Some kriya must be there. And that is how samabhivyahar vishesheshu, whenever words are uttered together, since they are always uttered with a kriyapada, tat karya vishesha pratyaya, tatascha kosha, and therefore a word always is understood with karya vishesha. Pratyam is understanding with some kind of a karya is there. Tatascha koshadibhyopi upajivya, and with that understanding alone you read the kosha. So when you now read dictionary and learn new words, how do you learn them? You learn new words also in relation to the words that you have known so far, and as much as you have known the words so far only in relation, association with the kriya, the new words are also learned that way. Koshadibhyopi upajivya. Upajivyatam karanatvam or prayojakatvam. That koshadi also becomes karanam for you to learn only in relation to what you learned so far. Prathamika vyutpatti graha anusarena karyanvida eva tat padathe shakti. So the koshas also can convey the words in the same manner. That Prathamika vyutpatti graha anusarena, only in keeping with the first understanding that the boy gained or the child gained. Karyanvida eva tat padathe shakti. That a word has shakti or communication of a meaning only as associated with some action, and therefore subsequently when you learn through dictionary or through any other source, that understanding also will be always pregnant with some association with some or the other activity. Natu tat ananvitaha. And therefore, even subsequently also, when the words are learned from other sources, they are always learned in association with some action, and not tat ananvitaha, not unassociated with an action. So they go to prasama vyutpatti graha. How is the word first understood? And word is understood from vyavahara. From vyavahara of madhyama vruddha. How did that vyavahara take place? By the instruction of the uttama vruddha. And what did that instruction involve? It always involves some kriyapada. Because without kriyapada, this fellow could not have understood. And therefore, understanding always involves some kriya. And therefore, word is always understood with reference to a kriya. And therefore, that understanding ever remains when he understands the words or when he uses them also. And that is how it is explained. Therefore, the words can convey the meaning always in association with the kriya. They do convey. Ghata, pata, etc. Words do convey, but always convey in our mind. Ghata, patas are understood always by us as something to be done with, not merely as ghata, pata. When you say pata means vastra, means you know that vastra is always known with reference to some achyadanam. Ghata is always understood as something in which you fill up water and stuff like that. Can you imagine ghata without an activity? They say you cannot. Ghata as such cannot be known by you. You can't even know it. When somebody utters the word ghata, how will you know it? Always in some association with some kriya. Not ghata as such. When somebody says pata, always you know it in association with some use. Artha kriya karyatam. So useful purpose is always served by the object, and along with that purpose you understand them. And object is not of no use as it is. Object is good only because it is useful. And that is how you understand the meanings. So a word can convey the meaning always in association with an activity. This is the understanding of the shabda, the bodha, how the knowledge takes place by words. And so anyway, Prayojaka, he explains the words of the earlier statement. Prayojaka uttama, prayojya means madhyam vruddhya pasyatha vitpitsuhu balasya buddhiribodhi danvayah. Kruti chikirshe means what? Krutischa chikirshaja, chikirsha willingness to do. Anayanadikam padi karane bhute. So willingness becomes the cause for bringing something or doing something. Madhyam vruddhasya anayane pravritti kruti chikirsha purvika pravrittitvat. That madhyam vruddha or the middle person also does something because there is a willingness to do. Because pravrittitvat, any pravritti always requires a willingness on the part of the person who does it. Otherwise, pravritti cannot take place. So understand all the psychology. This is all psychology. Ultimately, it's all understanding of the mind only, what it is. So this is how the mind is understood. That's how the person is. That's how you can. If you understand in this way, then you will convey also in that way. When you understand the mechanism by which somebody understands the meaning, then that's the mechanism that you will use for conveying a meaning also. So when you understand the psychology well, then you can also communicate well. You can also eliminate eliminate misunderstandings, or you can create understanding that you want and things like. So the function of the mind is to be understood well. It is mind by which you know everything. And so says, Madhyama vruddhasya anayane pravritti kruti chikirsha purvika. That the Madhyama vruddha, he brought the part because of the willingness to do something on his part. Pravrittitvat, because any pravritti or activity calls for this. Kruti chikirsha sviya stanyapana pravrittivat. Child knows when there is a stanyapana, when there is a desire or willingness to do. So I do something when there is a willingness and desire. This fellow did something because there is a willingness and desire. Because he will learn things in relation to his own knowledge. And so this child also must be doing inferences like this anyway, I guess, because they say that all knowledge is gained by inference. Words always convey knowledge by inference and not directly. This is what the Brahmakaras believe. Iti balena vyutpitsuna anumiyate dibhavaha. In this manner, the little child inferred that this fellow must have willingness. Karita jnana anayanam mat kriti sadhyam. What is karita jnanam? Anayanam mat kriti sadhyam. And how was the willingness created? Willingness can be created only when that person believes that he can do this. So, anayanam mat kriti sadhyam. When the elderly person says, Ghatamanaya, bring a pot, then the listener thinks like this, Anayanam mat kriti sadhyam iti. That, yes, the bringing of the pot is something that I can do. And then I am willing to do. First, that I can do. Secondly, I am willing to do. And then the doing takes place. So, willingness can only arise when there is a conclusion on your part that I can do. So, Anayanam mat kriti sadhyam iti karyatva jnana mulakatvad ityartha. Karyatvam is this, that there is a competence to do that act, and then there is a willingness, and then the action takes place. Anena iti madhyam vruddhena ityartha. Ashaktasya, we don't find that word anyway. Then says finally, yadi shabdasya karyatayam shaktir na syat, tena katham karyata jnanam syat. So then, if the word did not have the capability of conveying some kind of an action, why did the fellow why did he understand the word in reference to an action? So, yadi shabdasya karyatayam shaktir na syat, tena katham karyata jnanam syat. Tasmat gam ana ityadi ucharita shabdah anayanadi karya vishesha shaktah. And therefore, gam ana, may you bring the cow, then the child understands that this word ga, as gam as well as anaya, they are associated with the activity of bringing. Anayanadi karya vishesha shaktah. That statement, vakya, has the shakti or the capability of conveying the kriya of anayanam, of bringing. Iti balasya nischaya bhavati. Iti brahma vidyavarana fakkikartha. Fakkika means a logical exposition. So this brahma vidya gives a logical exposition. So this is how the child concludes that these words are uttered for a purpose of doing something, and therefore words always must have something to do, every object must have something to do, and that's how his understanding takes place. Iti vadatam, iti brahmana sattvam vadatam. This is how then he explains vrittikara. Who are vrittikaras? Jnana karma samuchayavad bhinnanam. There are two vrittikaras. One vrittikara is Jnana Karma Samuchayavadi, perhaps Bhartru Prapancha, who talks of Samuchaya or this together the performance of karma along with Jnana. The other vrittikara, and what does he do? So Jnana Karma Samuchayavadi. So therefore you will find Bhashyakara often addressing himself to another vrittikara who talks of Jnana Karma Samuchaya. Here Bhashyakara addresses another vrittikara who is different from Jnana Karma Samuchayavadi. Upasana eva jnanam, upasana heturva jnanam. What does this vrittikara believe? Upasana eva jnanam. Yo vedanahitam guhayam. One who knows Brahman as lost in the heart. Meaning one who meditates upon Brahman as lost in the heart. So when the word Veda is employed or knowledge is employed, it is upasana. That is the upasana itself is called jnanam, or upasana heturva, or knowledge satyam jnanavanandam, satyakamaha satyasankalpaha. All that knowledge is for the purpose of upasana. So either word jnanam should mean upasana itself, or the word should jnanam mean knowledge for the sake of upasana. That you know Brahman is satyam jnanavanandam Brahma for doing something, not, it doesn't stop there. Satyam jnanavanandam Brahma. So then what? What should I do with it? Then it says meditate upon, Yo Veda, meditate upon. Then you are satisfied, okay. So that's how when you, alright, Nityam, Shuddham, Buddham, so what? What is to be done with it? Because I always think that the words are always uttered for doing something with them. So my akanksha is not fulfilled unless I understand what is to be done with it. So tad vidijñāsasva, tad brahmeti. Therefore I connect Satyam Jnanavanandam Brahma Vakya with a Vidhi Vakya. Vidijñāsasva means meditate on Brahman, not know Brahman. that knowledge there also means meditation. He said knowledge either means meditation or knowledge is a means for meditation. So Vijijñāsasva, when it is may you know Brahman, meaning may you meditate on Brahman. And Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahma is to be known as for the purpose of meditation. So you know Brahman, so you can meditate upon. So wherever word Jnanam is employed in Vedanta, either that word Jnanam is to be understood as Upasana, or that Jnanam is to be understood as something meant so that you know, so that you can then meditate upon. So Upasana Heturva Jnanam iti Abhyupagacchatam. This is what the Vrittikara's opinion is. Aham Brahma iti Pratyagaminna Brahmopasanat Apuradvara. So how this moksha is created by them? Aham Brahma iti Pratyagaminna Brahmopasanadvara. When he says Aham Brahmasmi, he doesn't mean that I am Brahma. Aham Brahmasmi the Upasita. So may you meditate upon Brahma as I, or I as Brahman rather. Aham Brahma iti Pratyak Abhinna Brahma Upasanat. By meditation upon Brahma as Aham, superimpose the idea of Brahma upon Aham and perform that meditation. Then whenever you perform an action, Apurva is created. This is understood. Whenever you perform an action, some adrushtaphala, punya or papa has to be created. Now when Vaidika action is performed, it creates an Apurva which Vedas alone know, you do not know. So when you perform Agnihotra, Jyotistoma or some such Vedic ritual, then it creates an unseen result which you do not know, which will give rise to Swarga. You don't know how this action can give rise to Swarga. The Drashtaphala, we know how when we eat food, then hunger is appeased. That's Drashtaphala. But Adrushtaphala is where we do not know the connection between the action and the result of the action. And similarly also, we cannot understand or we cannot really tell how meditation upon Brahma can give rise to moksha. This is Apurva Dvara. You do that. And then some Apurva, some punya or some grace, something will be created. Swargavat janyopi moksha. And just as Swarga is something that is obtained or created or acquired as a result of karma, moksha also is something that is acquired as a result of karma in the form of upasana. But then janyo moksha, when moksha is created in this manner, how can you say moksha is nitya? Nasa punaravartate brahma vidapnodi param ityadi shastra balad nitya. You cannot question whether moksha is nitya, anitya, because it is created by upasana. Shastra says it is nitya. How? Nasa punaravartate. One having been liberated, he never returns. Brahmavid apnodi param. Knower of Brahma means upasaka of Brahma there. So Brahmavid apnodi param. We say knower of Brahman attains limitless. He says a meditator upon Brahman attains limitless. So it says param means limitless. So meditator attains limitless. Upanishad says, and how can you question? That's pramanam. Ityadi shastra varat nitya janyopi moksha nitya. Even though moksha is janya or created by upasana, still it is nitya shastra balad, on the strength of the statement of the shastra. But how can anything be created be nitya? Anything that is created can never be nitya. Created must always come to an end. It's perishable. Dhvamsavat. Take a pot and break the pot, then where is the destruction of the pot? That is what we call the pradvamsa, abhavaha, posterior non-existence of a pot. So pot is what now? Non-existent. Pot is broken. So that is the pradvamsa or breaking or the destruction of the pot. So that destruction of the pot is eternal now. Because that pot can never be created. So destruction is once and for all. So even though destruction has been created as a result of an action of breaking the pot, that destruction is eternal, is nitya. So something created can also be nitya, like dhvamsa. So why not moksha also be created with nitya? If dhvamsa which is created is nitya, dhvamsavat, that is drashtanta. So anumanam is there. Sapuradvaras janyopi moksha nitya dhvamsavat and shastra balad. Iti uktavatam acharya deshiyanam vrittikaranam. This is the acharya deshiya, ekadeshing. They are acharyas all right, Vedantins all right, but then they are not total Vedantins, partial Vedantins. So many partial Vedantins are there. That's why we have the Vishishta Dvaita and Dvaita. And their upasana alone is important. In all the Vaishnava Sampradaya or all Sampradayas, where Dvaita is not accepted, where Dvaita is either modified as Vishishta Dvaita or Dvaita is propounded, Upasana becomes the primary means for moksha. So whenever there is a refutation of bhakti, it is not refutation of love, it is refutation of upasana. That by upasana or by doing something that you can attain moksha, that's what is refuted. Bhashyakara will never refute love for God, or devotion to God, or worship of God. However, that worship being an action, that action can bring rise to moksha, that is refuted. Iti acharya deshiyanam vrittikaranam mata nirasaya. For refuting this particular mata, sutrasya varnakaantaram arabhyate. The another explanation of the sutra is now, exposition of sutra is now commenced. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sutra Bhashya Krutau Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punah. Ishvaro Gururatmedi Murti Veda Vibhagine Vyomavad Vyapta Dehaya Dakshina Murtaye Namaha. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. To Samanvayad. Gara introduces this particular Varnakam, this particular exposition. Evam Padanam Siddharthe Vyutpatti Michyatam, on the page 138. Brahmanastikanam Madam Brahmanah Manandra Ayogyatvat Safalatvat Vedantaikamayatvam Iti Uktya Nirastam. Those people who claimed or who accept that a word is capable of giving the knowledge of an existent entity. However, that they do not believe in existence of Brahma, which is Karma Phaladatra or Jagat Karanam. There they interpret Brahma, wherever there is a reference of Brahma, will be interpreted as a Devata, and therefore it is nothing but a stuti of the Devata. This is how the Purva Mimamsakas, the followers of the Bhatta, this is what they proclaimed, or this is what they presented. And mataha, this particular opinion or position was refuted by saying that Brahma, even though it is a parinishthita vastu or an existent entity, still it doesn't have manantara yogyatvam, meaning it cannot be known by means other than Vedas, and therefore Vedanta is the only pramanam for Brahma. So normally they claim that anything that is an existent entity should necessarily be known by perception or inference or other means of knowledge, because it is there. And what is there should be known to us. We say that Brahma is an existent entity, it is there, and still atindriyam, and therefore it cannot become the knowledge, object of the perception, and therefore not of inference or any of the means of knowledge, and therefore Vedanta is the only pramanam for Brahma. So that's manantara ayogyatvam and safalatvam. Secondly, knowledge of Brahman itself is the phala, or is in itself the result. Itself is a fulfillment. It is not that normally, in other cases, having gained the knowledge, we must do something to gain the fulfillment. Having known khichdi, you must cook it. Then alone you can eat it, and then the hunger will be appeased. And therefore the general opinion of the Mimamsakas is that merely knowledge of a thing cannot give a fulfillment. When you use that knowledge in doing something, accomplishing something, it is the accomplishment that can give you fulfillment. We say here that the very knowledge itself is an accomplishment, because it makes me know what is already accomplished, and there was safalatvacha, that Brahmajnana is safalam, meaning it gives me the fulfillment in itself. Vedanta ekamayatvam, and therefore Brahma, Vedanta ekamayatvam, Brahma can be known, or Vedanta is pramanam for Brahma, or Brahma can be known merely by Vedanta alone. This is how the arguments were. Samprati sarvesham padanam karyanvitarthe shaktimicchatam. Now the other school of Mimamsakas, which position is followed by the other common Vartikakara, the Vrittikara, they say that Samprati Sarvesham Pradhanam Karyanvitate Shaktimichidam. This other school of thinkers believes that a pada or a word, as we discussed last night again, how a word can only give knowledge with reference to some activity. That a word like a pot or a cow or whatever can only give knowledge with reference to some activity that purely an object called cow a word does not reveal. But whenever a word is uttered, the object cow or a pot or any object is revealed only with reference to an activity associated with it. Activity in general, not necessarily particular activity. In course of our experience of a cow, we have had so many activities with reference to cow that either you milk the cow, or you look at the cow, or you tie the cow, or you take the cow for grazing, that my association with the cow has always been with reference to some other activity, and therefore whenever the word cow is uttered, then I always associate some kind of an activity with it, because that is how my association always has been. The idea is that the word always has an association with an activity. And a particular verb will specify that activity. But in itself, a word has an expectation of an activity. And that's the reason why in a sentence, a word will not serve a purpose unless a word is related to a verb. Because in itself the word cannot convey, in a sentence, in itself a word cannot convey the full meaning. A word will fulfill itself only when it gets connected with a verb, and then alone that activity part associated with the word will really get fulfilled, and that is how Karyanvitate Shaktimichidam. This is the opinion of the Prabhakaras, also of the Vrittikara, that a word can only give knowledge of an object in association with Anvitartha, in association with a Karya or a Kriya. And therefore, Vedas are words. And so words of the Vedas can also give knowledge of objects only as associated with some karma and not otherwise. Vidisheshatvena pratyak brahma vedanta hi bodhyate. So this is another opinion wherein it is accepted that Vedanta hi pratyak brahma bodhyate. That yes, Vedantas do give the knowledge of Brahman. But in what way? Vidisheshatvena. Vedanta or Upanishads can give knowledge of Brahman, all right. But Brahman as associated with some activity, inasmuch as any word can give us knowledge of an object as associated with an activity. Therefore, words of Vedanta also can give us knowledge of Brahman, all right, but as associated with an activity. And therefore, whenever you hear about Brahman, Satyam Jnanamanantam Brahma, there is always an inquisitiveness in my mind. All right, so what? What with that Brahman? Tad vijijñāsasva. And therefore, you must seek to know that Brahman. What is that knowledge? Upasana. So there, the word vid, all the roots of knowledge are interpreted as what? Upasana or meditation. May you meditate upon Brahman in the self. Which Brahman? Satyam Jnanamanantam Brahma. And then that meditation will produce some kind of an apurva, some kind of an unseen, an incomprehensible effect by which you will become free. This is the contention of the Vrittikara. A very important opinion. As we said, this is an opinion that is essentially followed by all the peoples other than Advaita Vedantins. So you can see how these opinions have in them a root for the other schools, such as Vishishta Advaita, etc. It is not that the thoughts of Vishishta Advaita or Dvaita were totally absent, or that they were merely propounded by these acharyas. Those thoughts were there in one form or the other. And this contention that Brahman is always an object of some activity to be reached. God is one to be reached, to be seen, to be done with, something done with. And wherever there is duality, there always is going to be some kind of an action, a relationship is going to be there. And word only in relationship can give the meaning in a sentence and not in itself. So this thought is pursued, and that's the reason why we find an importance of upasana of God in other sampradayas, such as Vishishta Advaita, Dvaita. That doesn't mean that Advaitins dismiss the upasana or they dismiss worship, no. But according to them, upasana is a means for moksha. Here we say upasana is a means for antahakana shuddhi and nischalyam. That by worship and meditation, it is necessary, and what it accomplishes is that the purification of the mind, the grace of God, the removal of obstacles. So all of this we accept. That will so grace of God definitely is accepted, purity of mind is required, and therefore upasana is very much accepted by Vedanta as what we call paroksha sadhanam, or remote means for moksha. But immediate or pratyaksha karanam for moksha is knowledge. That is, upasana creates for you a situation in the mind wherein the mind becomes prepared for the knowledge. And that is the role that upasana has to perform. But ultimately, Brahman is to be known. Brahma is Jnaya Vishaya, whereas these people present Brahma as Dhyaya Vishaya. So, Vrittikaras, this mata now, the opinion or the position that is taken up here, which is going to be refuted by Bhashyakara, is that the Vrittikara, a commentator, presents, and it is not that we are interested in the given commentator. That is a way of again unfolding the nature of Brahman and nature of knowledge. The reason why various Purva Pakshas are taken up is not necessarily to dismiss or refute somebody, although that also is necessary, as we said, because people's opinions or understanding is always influenced by the current pattern of thought. And so if Vrittikaras were existent those days, so naturally what they wrote must also have influence on the people, so it is necessary to address. At the same time, all the discussions that is here ultimately aims at unfolding the nature of truth or unfolding the nature of knowledge. So the discussion is not for the sake of discussion or for the sake of refuting a certain position. For the sake of even unfolding. This is how Bhashyakara seeks to unfold the nature of knowledge and seeks to unfold the nature of Brahman. So earlier discussion also did it. This discussion will do it in a further. Further the same idea is pursued, and for that purpose